people living in caves, some are living in these tiny nests, and some are living in these white balls. In this video, we have incredible stories of survival. How people live here, and where are these strangest homes that people are living in? So let's get into it. Sealand. Have you ever wished to have your own country? We all know that some countries need stronger leaders, but Sealand has a unique story about what some individuals decided to do with a floating military castle. It all started in 1943, when the British government built Rough Tower, a floating military fort designed to assist them during World War II. When the war ended and Rough Tower was no longer in use, it was abandoned, until a group of pirate radio operators moved in and started doing their own musical thing, which is quite kick-ass. Enter Major Paddy Roy Bates. After evicting the pirate radio folks, he decided to go big by establishing Sealand as an autonomous principality. He was so adamant about it that when some British personnel attempted to invade his seas to install a buoy, he and his son opened fire on them. He was brought to court, but because the platform was outside British seas, he was unable to be charged. In 1975, he introduced Sealand's constitution, followed by a national flag, anthem, money, passports, and an immigration stamp. It gets weirder since there was a coup d'etat attempt to oust him and his family from power in Sealand, which was successfully thwarted. Some places refer to it as the world's tiniest country. Fast forward to today, and many are unsure what to make of the situation. But if you visit its official website, it welcomes you to join and even offers you a noble title. Sure, why not? Yakutskia. Now, I'm not sure how to say that word, but I tried, right? Let me ask you a question. How cold are you currently? Depending on the season and location, you may be pretty cold, kind of cold, or not at all. But if you live in this location in Siberia, which I can't pronounce, you'd have no idea what warm was because it's the world's coldest city. Now, I understand that Siberia is frigid on its own, which is why it isn't one of the most populous places. However, given the cold weather, there are over 300,000 people living in this area, which is ridiculous to consider. They suffer the cold because there is a diamond mine nearby that requires labor, and they are highly compensated to harvest them. But exactly how cold can it get? So how about minus 60 degrees Celsius, if not colder? Nonetheless, they persevere, and it appears that the people are quite proud of their ability to withstand such terrible conditions, as it demonstrates their toughness and resilience. While that is admirable, I'm glad I don't have to live there because it's so cold. That's really bad. Why tolerate zero temperatures that can turn you into an icicle? Island Lodge. Moving on to a well-known classic, the Island Lodge is an actual island near Iceland that is home to a single white mansion. The house appears tiny in comparison to the rest of the island, but it is there, with no other man-made structures. When people saw this house on the internet, they started guessing about what it was, who built it, how it got there, and so on, which led to a slew of rumors, lies, and false stories. But I'm here to clear it all up. First and foremost, this is a real house. In actuality, it is considered a lodge, and this is where the truth lies. It was created as a hunting lodge so that people could hunt the island's fauna. It was finally abandoned, and no one currently lives there, which may be for the best given that it lacks running water and other pleasant amenities. Drina River House. Yes, this is a genuine place, and it has become a popular attraction in Serbia. The Drina River House had extremely humble beginnings, since it was erected by a couple of folks who simply wanted a place to unwind after swimming in the river. They started small and gradually expanded the house to its current size. And if you're wondering why they stacked it up that way, it's because the river would occasionally rise, preventing the house from being washed away. The irony is that the house has been washed away countless times, necessitating multiple rebuilds. However, individuals are prepared to do so because it has become an iconic aspect of the river, and they do not mind contributing to its preservation. China's Cliff Village. Have you ever felt like you were dangling off the edge of a cliff? Some people in China experience this on a daily basis. This 200-year-old community became famous for its 800-meter ladders, which inhabitants, including children, must use to climb up and down the cliff to reach the rest of the world every day. It's crazy to believe that they've all lived so high, but they did. And they weren't impoverished either. It just took them a long time to go up and down and do what they needed to do to survive. Things changed, however, when the Chinese government offered them new ground-level dwellings, which they surprisingly accepted. They look to be content that they are no longer living off a precipice. The tunnels of Bucharest, Romania. There are specific tunnels in Bucharest that were formerly built for the city's heating system, which is perfectly fine. But now the tunnels of Bucharest are home to a large number of people who are simply trying to survive, and it has been difficult for them. However, as many who have been down into the tunnels will attest, while life can be difficult there, it is also relatively safe, without discrimination, and there is a spirit of wanting to assist one another make it to the next day. Believe it or not, these are not the only tunnels in the world that accommodate people. Many people enjoy going to places like this, to find a safe refuge because it is their only alternative. It's difficult to think about, yet it's what some individuals must do in order to survive. Madonna Corona Sanctuary. Here's another location that appears to be dangling from a rock, which, as we all know, is not an unusual sight in the world. It's quite common if you know where to look. The sanctuary of Madonna della Corona, located in Verona, is a revered religious site that has served as a pilgrimage destination for many people for centuries. And no, it's not Madonna's bar. The good news is that, while it is up high, you can get there easier now than you could in the past, since they have refurbished the footpath that leads there. The Madonna della Corona is an important place of devotion for Catholics who visit to pray and find solace in its serene settings. The sanctuary is devoted to the Virgin Mary, and the altar contains a statue of Madonna and Child. Mount Fanging. In China, up on Mount Fanging, there are not one, but two Buddhist temples, hundreds of meters above ground. The two temples on top of the mountain are built on separate peaks, and visitors must cross a tiny bridge to get between them. You should avoid looking down when doing so. However, simply getting to the temples will require an 8,000-step ascent, so good luck. However, if you can face the heights, you'll see the Chinese countryside like never before, and you'll be in amazement, not just of the beauty, but also of the work that went into building these sites so high. Are these golf balls from a science fiction set or an alien invasion? This is Bolvagon, and the only residents are humans. The Netherlands, roughly an hour from Amsterdam, has 50 sphere houses, built of cement and reinforced with fiberglass. Darius Kreshkom, a Dutch artist and sculptor, developed Volvagon, which translates literally as ball or bulb dwellings, in 1984. It was established and sponsored by a Dutch government subsidy for experimental housing developments. The houses have 3 levels: bedrooms on the ground floor, a bathroom in the middle, and a living area on the top. Although these homes appear out of this planet, its purpose was to bring their occupants closer to nature. The round windows provide views of the outside environment from nearly every angle, and the complex is located near a lovely canal. The designer died in 2014, yet his legacy lives on, since these residences are still lived in today. Snail Man. When you think about it, having a house that can only stay in one location is really inconvenient. I mean, I am envious of our nomadic pals, the snails. With everything they could possibly need on their back, life must be easy, right? At least it is, according to the next person, who has been living like a snail for the past 14 years. It's 2008, and Chinese citizen Liu Lingchao can't seem to get a break after losing his job, spouse, father, and house. Struggling to get back on his feet, Liu devised an intriguing strategy. He built his own movable home out of bamboo sticks and plastic sheets, resembling a snail shell. And, with a handy bamboo beam running through the shell, he can easily lift his home onto his shoulders and travel wherever the open road takes him. Furthermore, with no bills to pay, Liu does not even need to work hard to make ends meet. He does, however, make some money by scavenging and selling trash. His trash treasure hunts take him to a variety of communities. So it's a good thing Liu can quickly add some ambiance with some artificial flowers if he ends up in a wealthy neighborhood. Yes, Liu, it fits right in. Beach house. The average monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Rio de Janeiro's city center is $357. Sounds reasonable, right? Compare that to the average monthly pay in the same city, which is roughly $367. You can see how this could be an issue. So, in an effort to escape the exorbitant cost of living, Brazilian resident Marcio Matolius moved into a castle. Oh, did I not mention that his palace was made of sand? Yep. Marcio has spent the last 26 years living in a sandcastle. He piles sand over an inside wooden structure that gives only 340 square feet of room before carving it into an exquisite castle shape. Of course, it doesn't survive long, but that's okay, since he can recreate it. Unlike other castles, this one's meals are served on an outdoor grill and funded by the sale of ancient books. Showering is also not a problem. It costs only $1 at a neighboring fire station. Marcio claims to be content with his cozy home, which is overflowing with books, has seaside views, and costs nothing. In reality, he has become a local celebrity or monarch, with villagers referring to him as the king and crowning him with a plastic crown. And given Marcio's refusal to abandon his throne, all that remains to say is, long live King Marcio. Secret roomies. This story, like many horror films, starts with a woman moving into a new house in a calm farming town in rural America. However, as she attempted to settle into her new house, she couldn't help but be disturbed by the odd footfall she heard. She disregarded it, supposing it was paranoid. However, things only became stranger. From missing food to an unexpected flood, there appeared to be another person in the house. After inspecting the entire building, she was certain that it was all a coincidence. That was, until she was absent from work due to illness and observed anything unusual. The attic hatch was somehow opened. The cops were promptly called, but upon inspection, they discovered nothing but a sleeping bag, food, and a book in the attic. The cops never discovered anyone, despite the fact that it appeared that someone had been living there for the previous 6 months. The next day, she moved out. Down in the dumps. Around 1990, Miguel Restrepo and Maria Garcia, a Colombian couple, became trapped in a cruel cycle of homelessness and drug addiction. So they determined to alter their life for good. The only problem is, how? How could they break free without money, a house, family, or support? It was fortunate that they came across a free piece of real estate, albeit a fixer-upper, but nonetheless a place they could call home. And by home, I mean an actual sewer. I know that sounds awful, but because this was a disused sewer, it was much less of a cesspool of poop and rats, and more of an empty underground hollow. And, having furnished the space with a bed, a cooking stove, and even a television, the happy couple has called this house Sweet Home for the last 32 years. Of course, space is limited, measuring only 10 feet broad and 6.5 feet deep. Even so, it's sufficient for them and their favorite dog, Blackie. In fact, the couple says they prefer the privacy and have no plans to leave. There's only one question on my mind. Where is the tiny boys and girls room? I mean, I know they live in a sewer, but I really hope they aren't doing what I believe they are.